Woo! We are live.
Hello,
Here
hello.
with Bobby, handle your business, Dino.
How's it going,
What's good,
brother?
man?
Oh,
Man, it's always good.
Just bouncing around Europe, Well, actually not around Europe, around Romania, but having a great time.
It's Europe.
Yeah.
It's Europe. What are you thinking of it? I mean, how do you think of it? I mean, what's your impression? So, I mean, you're actually let's just start right there. You're moving to Europe, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you must have had like an experience and an impression before now. Excuse me, I'm still coronavirus out.
I know. I'm
You must
trying
have
not
had
to
a
get
good
it through the screen. I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, I know.
That just coughed on you. You're done.
Nah,
You're
it's all
sick.
good. Yeah. Oh well.
So you must have made a good experience that makes you want to like actually go back and stay there.
Yeah. So I came out last year. It was during August. It was hot. It was 100 degrees or whatever. But I came out for the War Room Summit, and I was only out for a week, but just in that week, the impression that it made with me, I was like, oh wow, I got to come back. This is awesome out here.
Okay.
And the main reason why I felt that way was because just in general, like just to sum it up, life is a little bit more laid back, and things are just like a little bit more cool.
Yeah.
The people act a lot different than they do in LA. The way that things are set up and how people interact with each other is different. And then of course there's the cost. I mean, if you're making essentially American money, right?
Yeah.
And you're making decent American money, you can live pretty well in a place like this.
Nice. This place, Romania, of course. How, I mean, you're talking about LA to Romania.
Yeah.
How much of a cultural difference are we talking? I mean, we're talking about like two Western countries, but obviously a significant cultural difference.
Totally different. Totally different. I mean, there's so many, it's like there's so many different ways I can point the finger at like saying how it's different, that like we could just spend the whole show talking about how it's different. I mean, it's just, yeah, I mean, it is the main thing that I noticed though, the people, the interactions with people, the way that people act, and the way people take care of themselves, it's night and day. It's just it's something that it's not really a fair representation the way I'm going to say this, but like imagine America like during the 40s. When men were trying to be men, women were trying to be women. They were the interactions were different. You weren't necessarily worried about someone sticking a knife in your back or shooting you. It was more they're a little, well, I shouldn't say a little. This is a full-on Orthodox country, Orthodox Christianity. And I think that I'm not saying everybody's Orthodox. That's like saying, people that are Catholic in America, they just say they're Catholic, but that being said, there is some kind of effect that it's had to where it's just a different interaction. I've been taking Uber everywhere, and talking with the Uber drivers and stuff. And it's funny because they're like, oh, we love America. We love America. America's great. We love Americans. Yeah. And it's just like, well, cool. Glad to be here.
Yeah. It's like, dude, we're trying to get out.
Yeah. Oh man, they'll hit me up when I tell them that I'm from California and that I grew up in LA and all that. They ask me the questions. Here's another thing. I have not seen one homeless person here. Not one.
Okay.
If I were in LA, I would have seen like 10,000 homeless people by now. Like streets lined with tents and when I start explaining to them, when they're asking me questions about Los Angeles or California in general, it's like they can't believe it. Like land of the free, opportunity. It's like depends on what your definition of freedom is.
And opportunity to live under a bridge.
Yeah, right. It's I mean, like I said, I could just talk this whole show about how it is out here, but to summarize, I'm really enjoying myself. Like I don't feel
Nice.
there's nothing that I feel bad about. You know,
That's
it's just
awesome,
been a
man.
good experience so far. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I mean, we spoke when I was on your show. We spoke about religion,
Right.
and I don't know how significant it is, but I know you like religion is important to you. So, like, actually coming to a country where orthodoxy is like a thing, that must be really nice, man. I mean,
it's a trip. I went with Andrew. I'm gonna have to go hit some more of these up. But when I was here during the summer, I went with Andrew to this monastery that was like 600 years old or something like that, and that's not even like a real old one, And so for those of you that aren't familiar, Orthodox Christian churches is like a Catholic church on steroids. I mean, like they are super with just the paintings, the artifacts, the way the priests are, So people that value that type of Christianity. My wife is Armenian Orthodox,
okay.
So she's gonna love it, and it's just it's neat because it feels almost more authentic, if that makes sense.
I think I know what you mean. After having traveled to the Middle East, and having, I guess you could say, a similar experience with Islamic culture and religion, ingrained and inculcated into the society, I have to say I probably understand what you mean. It's just something you have to experience. It's hard to explain.
Right. And they have like people that have been in because I've been to Armenian Orthodox churches. I went to a wedding with my wife in one for one of her, I think it was her niece or someone. But there's a little bit of that there. Okay, there is, just like with the Catholic churches. There's some, but when you come to a place to where like that's how it's been for hundreds or thousands, of years, right? It's a more authentic groove, and like you're talking about, with the Middle East and all that. Like you go to some place how it's been like that from the beginning. It's like, oh, this is the real deal.
Yeah, indeed. I don't know how to explain it, verbalizing this. A lot of people, they want freedom at any and all cost and expense, but they don't understand that expense and that cost is your culture. Because when you have absolute freedom, you have to let go of something, because you're free. I mean, if we take it into like a literal sense, you're holding on. We say in Islam, hold on. There's a verse in the Quran that says, hold on together to the rope of Allah. Well, if you're a free person, you have to let go. So if you let go and you just go into absolute freedom, you lose your culture. And then, I mean, culture, man, it's a beautiful thing. It's brought us to where we are today. And now we see, well, just the free fall that's happening around the world. The more we let go, it's just, so it's a beautiful thing to go into one of these cultures. I mean, I would rather live in a strong Christian nation than something like, the Germany, the way it's going. As a Muslim, I would rather live like that, because you understand that people have a particular, way, mannerisms, cultures, behaviors, ethics, morals, virtues, values. Let's say that. And it's a beautiful thing when you're coming from like a free-for-all society.
Yeah. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Islam is about submission to Allah, and
absolutely,
you can't. Submission and freedom are antithetical to each other. Like it just
absolutely.
So it is. It's like if you really want to be free and pursue anything, you got to let go. Just like you said, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a totally different topic, but I think women understand this naturally because they love to submit to a man and it makes them feel free. That's when their feminine nature comes out, is when they actually submit to a man who has a masculine frame. In a sense, the life of a person of religion is the same way. You can only experience this freedom through a type of submission. I don't know if anybody's gonna understand what I'm talking about, but people who believe know what I mean.
I get it. Well, here's the thing too, is even if somebody isn't religious, okay, if there's someone that is honorable and follow like a code, they're still under submission to that code, but because they know what the rules are, they know what they can do. And that in itself is a type of freedom. I get what you're saying. Not to start, bashing on anybody or nothing, but living, yeah, not to start, but let me get going.
But let's go.
Yeah, but so currently, about 7 years ago, for those that don't know, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, but about 7 years ago, I moved up to the Bay Area, and in the Bay Area of California, Bay Area being San Francisco, that's probably the most liberal place in California, and the feminists or people that I know that really drive that line, they're some of the most miserable people I've ever met.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like everything is an attack or a war. You look at their life, they don't have this or that. Some guy screwed them over, or they don't, whatever. And it's because they're chasing their freedom so much that if they would, just like how you say, play the role, then you know what your role is, you know what the boundaries are and what you can do and what's good to do and what's not.
Absolutely. You find satisfaction in your role. I mean, of course, that's not to limit and say that a person should, like, what do you say, be an underachiever, but you know your place, you know your role, and you know how you fit within it. Yeah, absolutely. So
go
ahead. No, please go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say my wife, as I mentioned, is Armenian, and her family, they immigrated over here. She was actually originally born in Baghdad, and and then they're fat, being Armenian Christians in Baghdad. And then they came over here, but her included, the family still really holds on to those like old school values, and even though my wife is a smart woman who has her own career, she still knows that I'm the man, I'm the husband, I'm here by myself doing this, setting it up for us so she can cut. You get what I'm saying? It's like she understands, and she hasn't lost any freedom. It's just that we know who and what we are. So I think that, and I wouldn't be able, like, knowing how American women are, I would have never gotten married to an American woman, ever. Not one that follows the culture of America, because they don't respect that. That's something that's like sandpaper. It's just, it doesn't work for them. It just grinds on them. Yeah.
Two things on that very topic. When I was in Qatar, I worked for Wazir Difa, the Ministry of Defense, and my boss was actually an Armenian Christian from Lebanon. I mean, she was married to a Shia guy, but she's a pretty nice lady. She recently died of cancer, unfortunately. But yeah, and what you're saying about American women, I don't want to take, just start bashing Western women, but it's not really, but while we're here, I just don't advise any of my guys. I got like a group of guys that, I give advice to, and I talk to, and I teach them my methods and my ways. I just don't advise marrying Western women. I mean, none of my wives are Western women. I'm married to a Somali girl that was born in Somalia, but raised in UAE, and a Indonesian girl that is, was actually born and raised in Indonesia, and now she's here with me. So I don't even mess with them. I mean, and they're educated women. They both have degrees. One's a specialist nurse, and my wife is a journalist, and she has like all sorts of other skills to go with her degree. I actually don't even have a degree. I didn't finish my university studies, so it's like
me neither.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I'm doing okay for myself. I'm doing well. And, I mean, they're completely submissive. And so I don't think that's something you can get out of women in the West anymore. I think even Muslim women, man, it's just really, it's turned into a hot mess.
We say, like, when you just drop the word submissive, right? If there were any woman watching this, like, if you just mention the word submissive and like within earshot of a Western woman, there's like an immediate, just like, just like this because the definition of the word and how it's perceived by us versus how it's taught to them is completely different. It's not a bad thing, but when you hear the word submissive, it's like the ears close, because as soon as you hear that, it's just like, oh, no.
They freak out. And I've never personally found a woman that is submitted to a man that they consider, or a man that is actually a quality man, to be miserable. I've never seen it. Never.
Never.
So
You know, my grandmother. Now, keep in mind, this is still back in the good old days. Okay, but
the golden age.
when she and a quarter Croatian. When I was a kid, it was Yugoslavian. Now I'm Croatian. You know, it's way of the world. But my grandmother was the Croatian quarter. Okay, and they were this old family. They actually came from railroad money. Her family was much richer than my grandfather. As a matter of fact, little quiz here, because they came over to Los Angeles in the early days. The land that Dodger Stadium sits on used to belong to her family.
Oh wow!
Like stuff like that, right? So, but she, and this is going to sound bad to people, but my grandfather, when I was a kid, he had all types of gumar. Gumar is like it's Italian for like a side chick. Okay, so he was, but even then, it was like she still knew the role. Like, okay, he's the husband, he's making the money, I'm spending the money, whichever. So it's like, now I'm not saying that's good and that's why women should submit so their man can go out and cheat on them. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm just saying that the whole attitude towards how men and the dynamic between men and women and how it's supposed to be as a family unit and everything, it's gone.
Yeah,
from the U.S., it's gone.
I'd say
very
all
few.
Europe too. Well, except East Europe. Let's say that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm here for a couple weeks so far. So I mean, I've observed things and I've been told how things are, but I still got to get my feet more wet.
Okay. Speaking of that, so you're looking to make a permanent move, and you're going to bring your family over.
Yeah, permanent's such a strong word, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm
never say never.
I'm a foot in two door type of person. I mean, Germany is not really ideal for me, but I do plan on having this as like a foothold to somewhere else. I might move to Turkey. I might move to Indonesia. I don't know yet. But I do plan on having like a foothold here. But my next move will be permanent. I'm 47. I'm too old to be jumping around anymore. I'm just
I get it. I get it. I'm almost there.
Yeah, but what I wanted to ask you was, in terms of like that family travel, whatever else, we got to cover the goofy, man. We have to cover the goofy. How is coronavirus affecting your travels right now and making things for you? We got to cover the goofy topic of coronavirus.
Okay, so coronavirus hasn't affected me at all because I wasn't planning on heading back right away anyway. So it's like I was planning on being here for at least a couple months while I was checking everything out. So it's like I'm just doing my normal thing. Now, what I have seen here in Romania is that apparently starting tomorrow, there's going to be certain things shut down and all that. So it is, even here, taking a little bit of a foothold. Yeah. But that being said, like I haven't seen lines a mile long to buy toilet paper. I haven't seen like all this different craziness that I've seen from the States. Like I just haven't seen it here. People are just nice. So it's God, I feel like the coronavirus has just been beaten to the ground, how much it's been talked about. I've talked about it, you've talked about like just the whole thing.
It's been a whole show yesterday talking about it.
Yeah, and it's just my thing is that I just I've been sick before and I've gotten better, and I feel like if I got sick from this stuff, because in my opinion, everybody's going to get it eventually. Yeah. Like everyone will have it, and they'll develop immunities to it, and then they'll be cool. Unless they're somehow immunodeficient, then they're going to have problems. But other than that, I mean, what can you do? Like I have to live my life in fear and dig a hole or something? No,
No, yeah. For me, I'm just thinking because I mean, like you're saying, you're eventually looking to bring your family over. So I'm just looking at like what how does that look? I don't know. Have they made travel restrictions? Germany is like on the U.S. travel restriction, and now they've added Austria, Switzerland, and all their neighbors to it. So it's like I was looking to bring my mother over here. Because my mother's getting older and my son's talking about coming back and my son is taking care of her. So now is the problem of, can I get her over? It's just, oh man.
Well, is she in the States?
Yeah, she's in the States. Yeah. But she's a British citizen.
I think coming this way, she's okay.
Okay.
I think it's if you were to try and send her back. And I'm under the impression, I could be wrong. You know, if somebody's watching the show, they want to write in and tell me I'm an idiot, they can do that. But I think I'm under the impression that as a United States citizen, I can go back.
Okay.
But I don't know. And I'm not worried about it because I wasn't planning on it anyway. So,
Yeah.
you know, I made sure that both my wife and my daughter, I've got a 9-year-old girl, that they both had their passports, and
Yeah.
that, but there was a time frame, and it doesn't fall within it anyway, so it's just not really affecting me.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. But you just had to cover it. You know, it's on everybody's mind. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's tweeting about it. And it's just, it's insane right now, man.
So for anybody that's listening, you can, you know, just remember that I said this or whatever. 6 months from now, this isn't even going to be an issue. It'll be forgotten. Everybody will probably already gotten it. There'll already be some type of vaccines for it, and we'll move on. Like I've been seeing, I've been seeing these tweets and these posts from different talking heads about, you know, I remember when, you know, I'm old enough to remember this and that, and it's like, hey, check it out, I'm old enough too, man. Yeah, you know what I mean? And like, we're gonna. And that's not to put anybody down or you know, say somebody's an idiot, or because you're going to feel how you want to feel. It's just the way that I live my life. I refuse to live my life as a prisoner.
Yeah.
I won't become like subject or imprisoned to anything, including I'm going to live in fear of a fucking virus. Excuse my language, but I'm just saying.
No, absolutely,
you know,
man.
just, yeah.
Which brings us to another topic. I talked about this on yesterday's live. I made a tweet series about it. That basically preparation for stuff like this, because there's always going to be some sort of unpredictability in the world. That's just part of life.
Yeah.
And so situational awareness, which is your thing, and preparedness comes internally, you know? And so if you are in a situation and you can't deal with it properly, then I would personally say that's more of an internal thing than an external, because external, we have as a species, as humans, who are not like given sharp claws and teeth, thick hide, or whatever else. We've always had to deal with external threats as a species. Sure. So this is nothing new to us. You know, we've actually had worse threats in the past. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you look at us as just, I mean, if you look at us as a member of the animal kingdom, right? You take God out of the equation and just say, oh, we're animals. You know, even if you follow that, right? We came from monkeys or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
We're still like something that is more easily killable, like than any of them. So when you think about what we had to go through in order to stay a species and you know, propagate our existence. Yeah, man. With this is I don't understand the herd mentality. I just don't. It's like somebody, you know, like the whole sheep thing, and I gotta do this and that, and that's not just with this virus. That's with anything. I mean, if you follow these social media posts or follow the news, or there's always something.
Yeah.
Right. There's always something. The biggest thing, and this is something that I've never experienced this. Okay. In all my life, I'd never seen it. But like when Trump became president, and Trump was running for office, and then he became president, and just like the hate and the this and that, and you know, oh, he's this. It's like it was all herd mentality. Yeah, we've seen. They even call, you know, the TDS, the Trump derangement syndrome, and that's not saying that like I'm some Trump supporter, because I'm not even political. Like I'm not. I just do what's in front of me. I do me. You know. But it's another, like, to where it's almost like just this echo chamber, and there's always something. So we've got this now. Everybody's focused and freaking out on this now, and in 6 months we'll have something else that we're focused and freaking out on again.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. You know, this is something that I can actually talk about in detail as an African American, because I mean, you know, the African American community, they have a very strong excuse me, guys. They have a very strong victim mentality, unfortunately, and it's pushed them to the left for some reason. And it's just, you know, trying to get through to a lot of these guys it's next to impossible, you know. And when I sit back, you know, my wife is from Somalia, and she was recently talking about how, holy smokes, how difficult it is to be a black woman. And I was like, woman, you need to stop. I'm like, you know, I mean, like, you're from Somalia. I mean, you could still go to your country and bullets are flying. I mean, like, your ancestors, you know, can just be like, will you shut up, please? I mean, we were out here and we established the country in a nation that had lions and like wild animals and whatever else. And now you're talking about how tough it is to, you know, work in an environment as a Black woman. Are you serious? You know, we took you from the bush, you know.
Have you ever seen Eddie Murphy's Raw? You ever seen Raw?
Yeah, that's old though. Yeah, I can't remember much of that.
Well, I know that's us, man. And we're, you know, but you remember that one? He's got a skit about that, about like how he didn't want to get a American woman or whatever, so he grabs some chick, and that's what have you done for me lately, Eddie? What have you done for me lately? Yeah, that's what that reminds me of, man. Yeah. You know, I will say this though, like to be on a serious note. So a very close friend of mine, probably one of my closest friends, his name's Ken Glover. He's a Black dude. He's born and raised in Watts. Okay. And for those that aren't familiar with Watts, like Watts makes Compton look tame. Like it's just like that's it's a hardcore. I mean, there's, you know, there's projects there. There's all types of stuff there. And I've been to Watts, you know, a few times. I'll go and pick them up, you know. Now I don't go walking around by myself because I don't have a death wish, but like I've been there, you know, with him, picking him up and stuff. And I can see where African Americans would get a victim mentality if that was what they grew up in. Well, because, bro, when you compare it to the rest of LA, it's like they forgot about Watts. That's what it's like, you know. And back when that, I don't know if you're familiar with the history, but during the 60s, they had something famous in Los Angeles called the Watts riots. Where they like basically burnt Watts to the ground, you know. But it's I'm not saying a victim mentality is right, okay? But what I will say is that if you've been fucked over, there's no shame in saying, hey man, where's mine? You know,
absolutely.
But the deal is that you have to remember that no one's going to look out for you. No one's going to just hand you something. So like if you really, and Ken has that attitude. Ken's gone out. I mean, this dude, he could have been a drug dealer or a gangbanger because that's basically what you do there, right?
Options,
he actually had to, he actually had to fight growing up to not be that shit, you know? And he works in movies now. He works with movie stars. I can't drop any I don't want to drop any names, but
understandable.
He works with some very well-known people. And it's because he had the attitude to where he's like, if I want to get out of this, I need to do it. Nobody's going to come and bring me nothing. And, you know, hey, here you go, Ken. It's like, he knows, and he got out.
Nobody's going to save you.
Nobody's going to save you. It's not happening.
Yeah.
You know, so
that's an important lesson,
I can understand. Yeah, I can understand. I'm not saying a victim mentality is right by any means. And I know what you're saying about how, you know, that could, because I see a lot of that too. Like some of it's crazy, and being white, I see a lot of stuff about, oh, fucking white dude, shut up, or oh, this or that or whatever. So like I understand like there's this dynamic, you know. But I will say this: there are parts like Watts, definitely Watts included, to where I can understand why they would perceive that. Totally, absolutely, yeah.
You know, my thing is, I don't know if you're familiar with it. There's this theory called R/K selection theory. And in R/K selection theory, you have two different types of species within a species. I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, there you have R-selected people and K-selected people. R-selected people are people who, they literally use rabbits as the example with the R. And then you have the K-selected, which are basically like wolves and higher species. And within humanity, you see these two different types of behaviors manifested in the way that people act. And humans are by nature K-selected. And so for me, I find it like, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I recently got screwed over. I could cover that later, but let me try and put this in perspective. African Americans, we know our history. We know we were slaves and whatever else. We were brought to America for that. At the end of slavery, the most success that Blacks saw was right after slavery. So we had people who came out of the greatest victim status that we've seen probably on the planet, you know, bar few. I'm sure there's some competitors out there, but, you know, that was one of the biggest victim, groups of people or victimized group of people that you found. And they established like exceptionally successful communities all the way up until I'd say about like the 50s to 60s. And then it just really started to fall apart. So I just, looking at it now where things are more equal than ever, I don't think we're ever going to get more equal than this. I don't think we can. I mean, we see like it's starting to fall apart. I agree with that. Yeah. It's starting to fall apart and people are getting frustrated. So it's like, guys, when are you going to capitalize?
Right. And listen, straight up, man, I've met white people and like, now I don't have any friends like this. And when I find out they're like this, or if I find out they're like this, we're not friends anymore. But I've met white people that are still straight up racist, oh, fuck this, fuck that, and say the bad words and all that shit, And so I know that it still exists, just like I know. One thing that I learned in prison is that, at least from the California perspective, many Black people are brought up and raised to fucking hate white people, like straight up. Absolutely. I mean, so I know that there's that too. It goes both ways. I experienced that, and nobody can tell me different because I lived it. You know what I mean?
You'd be surprised what people say amongst themselves when they think they're cool amongst themselves.
Right. Right. So, I mean, I know that there's that. However, the opportunities that we have and like what someone can do when they apply themselves, in my mind, like you said, it's not going to get more equal than it is now.
It's not. It really isn't.
It's just, it's reached, I mean, it's reached its peak. It's at its apex. Yeah,
absolutely. Right. People are actually sick of it to the point that people are getting tired of it. You made a good point there about like I don't know what to call it. Can we call it reverse racism? I don't know if we can call it that. Whatever. Racist. I mean, it's just racism. Racism. Period. From colored people. And I mean, a lot of people. I wouldn't say a lot of people, but there in the past, there were a lot of African Americans who were like dismayed with that. Because my ex-wife that I spent 24 years with, she's white. She's a white German. She's like German. And they're like, how could you marry a white person? This, that, the other. And I'm like, yo. Dude, people don't talk to you and they don't even get to know your history and they start talking stuff. My grandfather, my Scottish grandfather, he's as white as you are. He's 100% white. So I'm like, dude, what are you saying to me right now? My granddad is like, what am I supposed to hate him? How am I going to hate him? I mean, they don't even know my mother's like Indian, so I'm just like, guys, come on, man. How does that help me? Hating them. How's it going to help me?
Yeah, I've been out with Ken, like we'll go out some places and I've seen people acting weird and racist towards him, like while we're out, and it's a trip to me because I'll call him on it, like for example, we did this, we went to this casino by my house, we're going to have drinks or whatever, and normally I park, whatever, do my car. Guards don't say shit. I'll be standing next to my truck, smoking a cigarette, doing whatever. They don't say nothing, right? We went this one time. We got out, stood there for a second. I think I lit up the smoke and we were talking. Instantly, guards came. Oh, what are you guys doing? And I'm like, hey, motherfucker. Like, excuse me. But I'm like, you ain't ever said nothing to me before. Why are you here right now? But I knew why they were there right now because they saw a Black dude standing in the parking lot and it was like, uh-oh, trouble. So I know that there's still that, but what people need to understand is that these inequities, they exist on a person-to-person basis. One thing that I've always been, and to paraphrase, Dr. King, I've always been a content of a character type of person.
Absolutely.
Like it's so what people need to understand, whatever racism is going, whichever direction, is that's that person's problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's not what it is. That's just what it is for that dude.
Yeah. Before we go on to the next topic, I just want to say, Allah said in the Quran, I've made you different tribes so that you may come to know one another. And let me tell you something. My best friend in the world, he's a white guy named Yahya. Love this dude to death. I'd take a bullet for him or put a bullet in someone for him. Let's hope it never comes to that, but I would. And and one thing that has served me very well is having him as a friend, because sometimes I'm stuck with a problem. I'm like, man, I need a different perspective on it. And I'll hit him up. I'm like, yo, Yahya, I need you to wipe this up for me, man. This is my problem. And he will give me some answer that I never have thought of. I'm like, y'all guys are different. And then sometimes he hits me up. He's like, hey, I'm stuck with this. I need a different perspective. And I'll black it up for him. And he's like, yo, why would you think of that? I'm like, well, I don't know, man. You need this. You need ethnic friends. You need them.
You know, what a boring way to go through life if you only ever stuck with your own.
Yep.
What just a menial, average, boring, uneducated life would you have to where you only talk to someone that was the same color as you?
I mean, I have to say this is where culture comes in like in a big way. And although we're all Americans, there's still like household cultures that completely give a person a perspective that you would never think of. How could you not want to hang out with somebody who's got like a different worldview than you that can actually benefit you? I mean, I've only benefited from like having people of multi ethnic, backgrounds. It's only benefiting me, but teach his own.
Well, and like I was saying, the content of the character, but you're also looking for people that are going to elevate you. And that's not to say that you're using a person. What it is that you want to have a relationship with someone to where it's going to be mutually beneficial.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be you're able to help them out and they're able to help you out, and like you do this. You're not using them, you're not letting them use you. You're having and for that it shouldn't matter what someone is.
No, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I got a small tribe and it's a mixture of people.
Right.
This guy, Simply Vidat, he's in the chat. He actually had a question that he dropped to me on Twitter and he wanted to ask. This is a change of topic now. And you've been open that you've been to prison and whatnot. He wasn't asking about anything specific, but he wanted to know, have you seen a significant mentality change in yourself prior to prison to post prison, like before you went in, when you came out? Did it change significantly?
So my mindset or mentality changed while I was in there. For any of you that don't know, I have a website. It's bobbydino.com. I have a blog there. If you're interested in the story, because I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but there's a story there called De Profundis, which is Latin for from the depths. And it's the story of when I changed my mindset. And what had to happen is I had to quit running with the race, because everything in prison is very racial. You stick to your own. And I had to break away from that. Yeah. And that's when my mindset shift happened. And it was when I went in before, the biggest thing and the biggest problem that I had was that I didn't accept responsibility for my life. It was like things were happening to me. Oh, if only that dude wouldn't have told. Oh, if only that cop wouldn't have been there. Oh, if only that cop wouldn't have lied on me. Oh, if there was always something that was an external factor that somehow navigated my life. To where once I realized that I'm responsible for everything that happens to me, good and bad, right? Things started to shift for me, because at that point I was able to realize, like, okay, well, you've done all this bad shit that you're responsible for. That means if I do good stuff, that's all on me too. And it's only good. And it's as simple as that sounds to people.
Yeah.
I know people struggle with that on a mass scale about taking responsibility for their actions. We're talking about the victim mentality. Victim mentality is the opposite of taking responsibility for your life. But we know that,
most people aren't going to let go.
Right.
The vast majority aren't going to let go of it.
Yeah, and that was a big thing for me. So you take responsibility for your life. You commit to a plan of action. Okay, from now on, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm being about this. And you have to be 100% committed. Here's another thing why you got to be 100% committed, or at least I had to be too. Because if I say I'm about this, and I'm talking about if I'm still on the inside, right? If I say, oh, I'm doing this now, right? I'm living my life like this. But let's say they see me half stepping, like, he's still using drugs, or he's still trying to run with. That can go bad for me, because then it's like, hey, you said you're about that, and then I got problems, I got whatever. So it works the same way in the real world, except you may not get stabbed for it, but
no. Yeah,
you
I know
know,
what
if
you're
people
saying.
see that you're only half stepping, that you aren't really committed, they're just going to be like, look at this guy. This guy's full of shit.
Yep.
You know, like, yeah. So
I got a story. Basically, it's not it's not as bad as getting stabbed, like you said, but it is a real world lesson that I learned at my last job. I was at a major corporation. It's called Hudak, and they produce like robotic parts for like robots. You know, the hydraulics, the electronics, whatever else. We used to manufacture like all sorts of stuff. And I was in a middle management position, and that really, I mean, even now I'm like sort of in like an office / middle management type of position. And even at this job, even though it's better than the last one, it burns people that I, as an African American, have come to Germany with broken German. It's not broken German, but it's not perfect. It's definitely, you know, I'm a foreigner when I speak, and that I've come into a position like this, you know, and I've come and I've outshined like locals who've spent their entire life here, went to the schools here, or whatever else they ethnically and demographically fit in. And then I outshine them. That really bothers them. And so I have to be like 100% on game, zero excuses at all times. Because at Hudak,
because you got eyeballs.
Exactly. They got me.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I let stuff slide and I'm like, yo, dude, why did you do that? It's like, no, I had to stop and say, why did I leave the door open for him to do that to me? You know, he just took the opportunity I gave him. You know, so I had to actually change my mentality. Also, I understand 100% taking 100% charge and control, man. It's very important. Nothing will let you know that more than having people gunning for your back. You know, that you can't leave doorways open.
Well, ultimately, you're responsible for your ship. You know, like you're the captain. Okay, and if something happens and you're going in a certain direction or whatever happens around you. If that boat runs into something or you end up crashing, it's on you. You're the captain of that ship, man.
Absolutely.
And that's something that people really need to recognize. And once you fully commit to like a plan of action and a way of being, it's something that is it's life changing. And it's, you really can only go up. Bro, real quick, my phone just gave me a 10% thing. Let me plug it in real fast.
Yeah, please.
We can still keep talking. I'm going to see if I can't. I don't know if I can turn off the camera or not. Anyways, let me grab the plug real quick.
Yeah, it takes time, man.
Yeah. I'm still here, though, if you want to keep talking.
You know, a French guy, he said something I had known, but I had forgotten. You know, he was like basically one of the site managers at Hudak, where they got me.
Okay.
And he called me into the office when there was some sort of problem with one of my workers had managed to fall into. And he said, you know, Craig, he's like, I'm about to tell you something that's not your fault. He says, but it's 100% your responsibility. And I just knew it was going to be downhill from there. I was like, ah, dang. And he was right, you know. Yeah. And at the end of the day, even though I left, I didn't get fired. Excuse me. When I left, my team was the highest and the best performing team there was in the house. And my boss actually asked me not to go. He just asked me to go to a different duty station, but I refused. I was like, yeah, nah. I'm good. You know.
Well, you know, the problem with, let me make sure that this starts charging here. The problem when you really take responsibility for your life and you're really like doing things right is that people want to, I can't even tell if that's charging. People want to give you more responsibility. And sometimes that's a blessing and sometimes that's a curse. Okay,
absolutely.
It is charging. Okay, good. Because what ends up happening is like you said, a good example, you know, not to keep bringing her up, but like, so my wife is an RN and she's got seniority to where she's not like the typical RN. She runs things and does different that. And she does her job very well. And the problem with that is that she does it so well that upper management wants to keep giving her stuff to do because of how well she does her job.
That's my current position.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's also, and I don't know if women have a harder time with this than men because women typically tend to be a little bit more passive. That's why they say that men earn more is because a man's not afraid to say like, hey, what's my end? What am I making? To where a woman is like, oh, well, I'll find out, you know. And this, so I don't know if it's something like that or what. But you have to create boundaries for yourself. I mean,
absolutely.
It's like, hey, man, I've got a heavy load. Hey, man, I'm already doing this or that. You know, like, I mean, there has to come a point because Otherwise, you're just going to burn yourself into the ground for what? For a corporation?
Like you said, if you don't set limits, they're not gonna stop until you kill yourself, and then they have to replace you,
right?
Which they'll do tomorrow.
Right. And everybody's replaceable.
Yeah, I said something.
Yeah.
I don't know who came up with the saying. I know I didn't, but there's a saying. They say work is like prostitution. The better you perform, the more they want to bang you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that meant agreed.
You gotta bang you isn't the term. This is the better you perform, the more they want to fuck you. It's a reality though. And whenever you go into if you're not working for yourself, if you're not employing yourself, you have to go into your job and you have to understand that, perform well, but you also have to be able to set boundaries like, hey, yo, look, okay, you're screwing me already. You're not putting that in my mouth on me. Okay. So it's just,
yeah.
So that's where I'm at my job right now. I understand entirely what you're talking about with your wife, because it's like I come in there and my company, it's full of like old guys. I mean, in my department, I think it's 7 years tops. Is other than the manager, everybody's going to be retired, and so you got guys that are on cruise control. They're not trying to do more. They're not trying to do better. It's almost impossible to fire them because of the socialist system in Germany, and so it's like I come in and I'm like, Mr. Fired Up, rah, rah, bing, bing, bing. And they're like, oh, well, I can give him my work. And then at some point I was like, yo, I'm doing everybody's job. And these guys are sitting around, drinking coffee. And so, I had to take it up with them. I was like, look, man, send me home or you guys got to do your job.
Yeah. Well, both my brothers still work 9 to 5s. As a matter of fact, one of my brothers is a millwright, and that's the profession I got into when I came home. I worked in oil refineries, and
nice.
It's a lot of it was. I mean, I made great money for someone that was just out of the pen. Like I was rolling, but it's the same there to where my other brother's an electrical engineer, and he when he got this job after he graduated college and he got this job, it was the same thing. There was like these old electrical engineers that weren't doing shit, and they didn't have to do anything because they could just coast. Like you said, their retirement's coming up, and you got a young guy that's coming in, he's fired up, he wants to do all the work, and people are side-eyeing him like, this fucker, like what's he? And it creates, animosity, because what you're doing by doing a good job is highlighting how crappy everyone else is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And,
so,
my wife
make
just
yourself shine.
And my wife just said this right here. Someone who's close to you at the workplace is usually the one who puts you down. My direct supervisor, he's a nice guy, but I come in there and I outshine him. And I don't know if you ever read the 48 Laws of Power, but it says never outshine the master. So whenever I make a mistake, and it's my mistake, I own it. That dude blows it up so big. And it's like it goes to the top management. I'm like, why would you take something, remedially dumb, like a little minor mistake like this to the boss? What are you smoking? But so you got to really watch that stuff, which brings me into something I want to talk about also. But go ahead. I see you want to say something.
No. Same thing. That was one of the things that, like, when I came home, I would tell my brother and I would tell my wife is, as friendly and cool as you think you are with these people at work, don't tell them anything.
Nope.
Like, don't remember that they are not your friend. And like the second that they can see that they can somehow get, elevate themselves by putting you down, they will.
They'll take it and they'll run with it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Which brings me into like what I want to bring is you talk about situational awareness. And when it comes down to situational awareness, do you actually cover stuff like this also? Because this is, in my humble opinion, part of situational awareness.
Absolutely. And, I like working when it comes to like situational awareness. I have a consultation that I do. I call it presence, because it's actually like your whole being, like just like you're talking about. It's your presence. It's not only what you're looking for externally, it's what you are projecting from your own.
Yeah.
And that includes the
social cues.
It's like they're like lord games. You know how like when you have a king and in his court there's a bunch of lords, and these lords are always like conniving and doing whatever because they want the ear of the king, and if they gotta stab someone in the back to do it, they'll
the courtiers.
Right. Same type of thing in real life, all the time. if you've got a good friend or you've got someone that you know has your back unconditionally, you should thank God every day for that, because most people aren't like that.
Yeah.
Most people, it's just about them and how and who can I use to get up.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the courtiers and all this is a lot of people don't think this stuff still exists, but it really does. You know, the royal court in a sense has changed to, you know, the corporate one. You know, the royal court has become the corporate court. You know, and so I think people underestimate the necessity for, like, you know, understanding and seeing social cues, not just, you know, ones like in big cities or whatever else, which is something I want to get into also. So yeah, 100%, man. I'm with you on this.
You know, my grandparents. Let me get a drink here real quick. I just made some super duper strong coffee, and I'm just pumped. So my grandparents, the ones that I was talking about earlier with the Croatian grandma and all that.
Yeah.
My grandfather owned an aviation business, and it did very well. I mean, he was, during like the 80s and 90s, he was rolling. He had like different planes. They were going different places, parties all the time, people over at the house all the time, going out to all the expensive places all the time, right? And one of the things that I noticed even there, right, because it wasn't like these were employees of his or whatever, these were friends, okay? Yeah. And there was still that thing to where people were trying to get the ear and trying to get this, and then it's, oh, I'm having a hard time paying this bill, or oh, I'm having, you know, oh yeah, here, let me help you out, right? And it was something that disgusted me from a kid. Like I noticed it from a kid. Yeah. Like from being a young age, I saw how people were using my grandparents, and even to this day, that's why I'm so much about, I'll take you out, I'll pay my own way, I'll do whichever, because just seeing it and seeing those games, it was just something that it was a lesson to me to this day, because my grandparents ended up dying basically penniless.
Oh my.
Because they just, you know, he got sick and there was nothing coming in and blah, blah, blah. And then all the money was gone.
And then all those friends were gone too.
All the friends were gone too. Right.
Yeah. You know, in Qatar, you see this a lot also in Qatar. The Qataris, on average, when I was there like 6 years ago, the average Qatari earned $72,000 a month. That was the average household income of the average Qatari family. Now, of course, you know, they're going to have a month. You're going to have a huge demographic swing, because you're going to have those who are making like tens of millions, maybe even billions a month, you know, and then you're going to have those who are making like, you know, 15 to 20,000 a month. But the average was like $72,000 a month for the Qatari families. And Qataris were exceptionally like what's the word? Weary of foreigners in general. And so it was very difficult to make friends with the Qatari. Even if you didn't want anything from them, they were just so weary and so tired of so many people trying to be their friends because of money. And there was this kid I used to hang out with him. He did jiu-jitsu with us. He was a Qatari. And then he was from a multi-billionaire family. And they gave him everything except cash. He had a fat Cayenne. He had a Lamborghini. He had everything you could want except for money. I literally had more money in my pocket than he did. And they worked him like a dog so that he would understand and appreciate. Because his parents came from the desert. They were literally like in the desert just before him. So they're like, you're going to respect money.
Like Bedouins.
And I was just talking to him one day. And I was like, dude, you are so on edge. I said, man, I feel sorry for you because you don't know who your friends are. I'm like, man, that's got to be a rough life, man. And he said, yeah. I said, why do you think Qataris are so insular and why we're so family? He's like, you know, because we have no choice. We can't trust anybody. I was like, man, that's no way to live, man. It's rough. I wouldn't want to do it. That's a crazy
amount of money to be making.
That's a lot of money.
I mean, that's like, yeah. I mean, I can understand how people would, you know, I still have people that I know that when I see what their day-to-day is, or like whatever. Now I don't know the intimacy of the situation, the friends and all this, you know, I can't profess to know what they know, but from an outsider view, it seems like it's the same thing. Like, dang, man, that dude's just living off your dime.
Yeah.
You know, like that dude is just existing because you exist.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that.
So,
man.
yeah, well, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so about like paying my way and doing my own thing, because it's like I don't get me wrong, I still want to be friends or whatever if it's cool and it seems like we jive, but I don't ever want someone to think that I'm using them for something.
Yeah.
Like ever.
Yeah. It's just a bad way, man. It's just a bad way.
Yeah.
Speaking, all right, let's go a little bit into situational awareness again. With situational awareness, do you actually cover like, the violence and combat aspect of that also? Is that something that's covered in that also?
Yeah, it kind of has to be. That's yeah.
For the people who are watching.
Right. Yeah, definitely. First and foremost, situational awareness starts with you. That's what I always tell people. It's what you project. It's how you present yourself, your presence. If you're somebody that's walking around all slunched up, looking scared and whatever, you look like a target.
Yeah.
And someone that knows, or someone that isn't afraid, will treat you as such. Here's the thing that people don't understand, and you'll understand. You've had some training. You'll get it. There are people that have experienced violence, many of them crooks or felons or whatever like that. And once they've hurt someone, or once they've actually done it, since they have the experience, they gain confidence through their experience, and they're not afraid to do it to others.
Yep.
Now, I've actually seen that someone getting their ass kicked, okay, and they don't fight back. They're just like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, hey, stop. Hey, whatever, because they've been taught all their lives so much about don't hurt people, don't do this or that. And because they've never been in this situation, they're literally being attacked and don't know how to handle themselves and don't know what to do. And that's no good.
It's terrible.
So to answer what you were talking about, after you get past the point of what you're presenting to the world, then there absolutely is a violence aspect. There's something that actually Andrew and I were talking about putting it together as something that people can come and attend. But I call it RFS, and it's an acronym for Riot Fighting System.
Okay.
And what that is, Okay. People watch the movies, they watch Bruce Lee movies or they watch whatever. And there's all this, Ip Man, they're throwing punches and blocking and doing all this stuff, and the fight goes on for a half an hour, right? In real life, like a real life confrontation, it's not like that. And it can't be
not at all.
Right. It's got to be something to where it's just boom and on to the next, and I think that what the average person doesn't understand, unless they've actually been a victim, and even victimhood doesn't necessarily teach it, because you don't get any experience from victimhood. You just get the experience of being a victim, right? But people don't understand the brutality of real violence. I mean, I've seen what men can do to other men with their bare hands, and it's crazy.
Indeed.
Crazy. Yeah.
I talk about sorry. I'm gonna coronavirus kill over on here. I talk about violence in my book.
I'm dying already.
Yeah. I sent you my book, of course. I sent you a copy of it. And I talk about violence.
Yeah.
Let me know what you think of it. But I talk about actually my personal experiences with violence, which people don't know. It's quite extensive, actually. I'm not saying I'm like a gangster or a badass. I'm really not. But, I've seen a whole ton of violence in my life. Some of the stories I actually had to leave out because because all that stuff happened here in Germany. There's photos from the places where it happened. I actually went back to the scene of the crime and took pictures and everything. And, just for context. And one thing that people don't understand is, like you said, how violent and how dangerous people can be. And I hung out with people who, man, they're just scary. When I think back to it, I'm just like, what the heck was I thinking hanging out with those guys, And I mean, just the havoc that we wreaked on people, to the point that I have to worry about writing these stories in my book because I might actually be able to catch a case because of it.
Yes.
It's like,
I know that.
Yeah,
I totally can relate to. There are stories that I can't ever write.
Yeah.
And it's not even, some of them, yeah, you know, there might be like statute of limitations or whatever, but others are, I could get in trouble with people that were involved.
Exactly.
You know, personally, like, hey man, what do you know what, and put my own life in danger, put my own family in danger.
Yep.
Because, so bro, I've talked about that with people. I totally get it. Totally get that.
But most people aren't prepared for the level of violence that a man who, like you said, has experience with it is capable of. That, again, going back to people who don't know limits, you know, you can talk about the workplace and the workplace not knowing limits. There's people who have, you know, a mean streak inside them, and they don't know limits with that mean streak, and it can actually cost you your life. Or even if it doesn't kill you, it can cost you your life in the sense that I've seen people who were so grievously injured, I guess what you call GBH, grievous bodily harm, to where it's like they can't work anymore.
Yeah, we call that. Yeah.
And it's just, it's like, it's a dangerous world out there, and people are like, why are you always on edge, Abuamerican? My wife, she's in the chat, she could tell you. It's like, you know, she goes out, she's in this region probably the only one who wears the niqab, and I don't play. It's like the moment someone like mumbles something, mutters something, gives a dirty look, whatever else, I'm instantly on them. I was up at Neuschwanstein's castle with her, and some guy was like turning his head looking, and I was like, turn around and walk. That's what I barked at him in such a mean way. And I was like, I was ready to grab this guy and throw him over the wall. Mom was like, well, I've never seen you ever, you know, be like that. But the guy turned around and walked, because you don't know what people are capable of. So you have to sometimes be that guy.
The first time I was in Romania, I was hanging out with, you know, I was here with Tristan and Andrew. I was actually staying at their place. And Tristan and I were going different places. And he was watching me, like checking rooftops, looking around. And like, it seemed like every 10 or 15 minutes, he was going, relax, bro. You're in Romania. Nothing's going to happen. Relax. You're fine. You know, and it's not like I'm being, you know, crazy with it, but he just noticed that I was seeing everything, you know, and that's something with situational awareness. I mean, you always got to keep your eyes open, and it's not just for bad people per se, but it's what's in your environment, because you can use what's in your environment. Like, let's say you walk into a room, you know, I did this at the speech I gave when I was at that summit. So you can go into a room, right? And let's say something happens, there could be weapons that you could use in that room. There could be shelter that you can use in that. There could be an escape route. There could be whatever. You know what I mean? There's all these different things that, but if you're not paying attention, you're not going to see it. You know, and that's it. One thing about
something I say
Romania,
a lot, just on that topic, I say this to my kids a lot. I say, be nice, be polite, be cordial, and have a plan to kill everyone in the room. It's not my saying. Yeah, but I say it to my kids all the time.
Well, I talk about that with so there's stationary weapons, right? And then there's weapons of opportunity. Yeah. Okay. So to give you an example, something happens, somebody's talking shit, you know, whatever, you think they're about to get off on you, right? And they're standing right next to a support column. Okay. If that would be a stationary weapon, because without making a fist, without doing nothing, if I bounce that dude's head off of a concrete support column, that's going to mess him up way worse than if I try and punch him with fist and bone. You know, if there's a big candlestick in the room, that's a weapon of opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
With the candlestick. No, I'm just saying, you know, like it's just, so you always have to be aware. And that's, people go, oh, well, you're being paranoid, you're being this. Paranoid is being afraid or nervous of something that's a delusion. Yeah. Life isn't a delusion.
No.
You know, so, and I don't feel particularly stressed. I don't feel I feel good when I go out. It's just that I pay attention.
Yeah. You know, like, I talk about.
No, I just real quick. It's like driving a car, right? If you drive a car and you're only looking like this, that's not a good way to drive a car.
No, it's not.
But when you're driving and you're just kind of looking around and you see, checking, you make sure, you know, and you're basically looking at everything right in front of you. The chances of you getting an accident greatly increase or decrease.
Yeah. You know, I talk about in my book, The Mad Monkey. I talk about my time with a group of guys. The Mad Monkey, just to explain that, I personally
go
hold
ahead.
that every man has this little spark of anger inside of him, and some guys let it go, some guys completely just diffuse it and control it, but it's there in every single human male, and that little spark of anger is called the mad monkey. And there was a point in my life I didn't have control of that little sparker, and he made me do some crazy stuff, and that's what the whole book is about. But I ran with this group of guys called the Crew, and we were dangerous, man. We were teenagers and we were dangerous to adults. I mean, we got into stuff that, like I said, I can't even type now. One of the guys, he's actually a cop, so I definitely can't, put that stuff in there. It might jeopardize career. I don't have a clue. But definitely stuff that, probably still open cases on. And that's why, to this day, I am extra careful, because amongst men, there are wolves. And if you're walking around, in the countryside and there's bears out there, and you're not paying attention to your surroundings, you're going to get eaten by a bear, And so it's the same thing in society. When I'm in London, I'm with my homies and I'm walking around, and they're completely clueless to their surroundings, and it's baffling to me. And like sometimes I'll walk, and here's the thing: in a major city, I guess you're from LA, so when you speed up, people speed up. When you slow down, they slow down. They just move with the flow of the crowd. It's not that they're following you or tracing you, but to me, like I'll speed up and like, okay, they're speeding up. I slow down, they don't pass you. They're just doing the large city crowd thing. But to me, that's like absolutely hostile, because that's what we used to do when we stalked people that we were going to attack in the Crew. And so then I'll like, homie, yo, stop right here. And then I'll stop at a window and where I can see the reflection, and I'll act like I'm about to tie my shoe or something. I'm like, let's see. And then they go past. And it was like, what's that all about? I said, this person was like for the past 2 blocks doing this. And they're like, dude, you're nuts. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, all right.
No, that's same. You and I have pretty similar backgrounds when it comes to that. And we didn't have a name proper, but I mean, I even call my email list the Crew. Like I say, join the Crew. Because that's what we were. It was our crew. That was just it was what it was. And you're absolutely right. It's the type of same type of action. You look for people that. Another part of situational awareness is being able to having a basic understanding of body language. And most people think they have a basic understanding of body language, but they don't.
Nope.
They miss the signs, they miss whatever. So there's that element for sure.
Sorry, I just saw a comment here. What Abuamerican? I can swear that I was listening to Samuel Jackson. I don't sound like Samuel Jackson.
You haven't dropped enough MF bombs.
No, I really haven't. I ain't talking about snakes on a plane either. So yeah. So if someone was interested in like situational awareness, they can find it on your website, right? BobDino.com. I posted that earlier, didn't I?
I believe so. Well, there you go.
Oh, I lost my sound.
So there is a course that's there. The course is it's a video course of me talking about the fundamentals. It'd be basically, if I were to describe it easily, it'd be like a situational awareness 101 or 101 course. I do consults as well. I can do them over the phone, but or over a Skype or whatever like that. However, if somebody wants like the real deal, if somebody really wants the coach, it's better if I do it with them in person. It's just, I'll take them out, we can talk, take them through a mall, to take them through whatever, and just kind of work with someone. It's better. I wasn't particularly planning on promoting that, but that's there for people that are interested in it.
I mean, I just, I figured it was important to mention it because it's just,
I love you, Matthias.
A lot of people are clueless. And as a man, that's not a luxury we have. And I mean, we're looking at we're looking at situations and times right now. They're like, people are out stocking and hoarding toilet paper and whatever else. And now you're going to be in an environment where we don't know where it's going to go, left or right. Like you said, in 6 months, it's probably going to be gone. But if it's not, you can't be out here and you can't be clueless. You can't be a victim. You can't train yourself to be a victim. So I think it's important. It's not a matter of circle jerking, promoting people's products or whatnot. But I think this is something that is absolute. It's an absolute necessity for a man. And I cover this in my book, that it's an absolute necessity that you need to know combat skills. You need to understand your environment. You need to understand to read body language. This guy's amping himself up to make a swing. You can see it. When you know it, you can see this guy. He's charging himself up to attack you. He just hasn't got the cojones to just come out right and do it. So he's working himself up to something.
Right.
You know? So these are the type of things that men need to know.
Actually, there's in that video course that's available on my website. There's a section to where I go over body language, and I have one of my friends, Jim. He's in it as like the example, showing like different things that I'm talking about. You know, like he's the bad guy, right?
Yeah.
But that's one of the things you spoke about earlier that I'd like to reiterate on, because it's totally important. You talked about when you think people are getting crazy, that you come back like even more. And when there is a situation, you know, my wife and daughter, my daughter more so because my wife has known me since we were teenagers, but we'll be somewhere at night, and she used to be afraid. You know, it's dark, there's people around, whatever. But what they know now is that when we're out at night, I'm the scariest thing walking around.
Yeah.
For real. I mean, I've got a decade credentials of being in more riots with more fighting with people than I can remember or count.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just, it is what it is, right? So what crazy understands is crazy. You're not going to rationalize with a crazy person.
Absolutely
like whether it's a homeless person, whether it's a criminal, whether it's whatever, there is no rationalization. There is no, hey, let's talk about this and maybe we can work it out. But what crazy does understand is crazy. So when somebody is getting at you, right, and you come back, they know that language. Yeah. You know, and that usually ends a bunch of problems right there. When someone can see it in your eyes that you are going to be a problem for them, it's like we're talking about lions out on the Serengeti earlier, right? What kind of animals do lions go after? Do they go after the biggest dude in the group? Do they go after the biggest, buffest, I don't know, water buffalo or whatever? No. They go for the ones that look like it's going to give them the least amount of problems. And that's a lion.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's still looking for the ones that are weak. Why? Because it doesn't want to get hurt. It doesn't want to possibly suffer damages. It wants to go the easiest route. Criminals are the same way. Bad guys are the same way. Okay? They don't want to risk getting messed up. They don't want to risk getting in trouble or getting caught or getting anything like that. So the second you can show them, like, I'm going to be a problem for you, it's okay, on to the next. Now, that being said, I gotta qualify this, especially for anyone that lives in the United States or anything like that. Don't be dumb, because people can have guns and people can have whatever. Okay, so always be aware of that and choose your battles carefully. Okay. When I'm talking about being crazy, I'm not talking about somebody looks at you or side eyes you and you're like, "What's up, motherfucker?" You know, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, but if it's something to where you're certain that like your safety or your life or the safety of a loved one is in danger, then you got to handle your business.
Absolutely. You know, you said something there. I have a saying for everything. I literally do. And I have a saying. It's mostly from the military.
It's part of being old, bro.
Yeah.
We develop, you know, these little,
And I'm pretty sure the saying is mine, and it's deal with reasonable people reasonably and deal with unreasonable people extra unreasonable. And a lot of people didn't understand that deal with unreasonable people extra unreasonably. And the point is that a person of unreason, when you start to talk to him from a position of unreason, you're talking to him on his basic level of understanding. He's not going to understand you because that's the mentality he's coming from. So when you go extra unreasonable, now he gets a shock, like a jar, like, oh, you know, you can't talk to a person on that level when you can't talk to a crazy person with crazy. You got to be extra crazy because he doesn't understand crazy because he is crazy.
100%.
You know?
Right.
And so
go ahead.
What you were saying also is when I'm with family, I'm extra queued up and I'm extra amped up. And I'm also always armed. When I'm alone, you know, I'm like, man, what's up, dude? You know, let me buy you a drink, let me buy you a Coke, whatever else. I'm cool. Or I'll just totally vacate the situation if that's an easiest option. It's not that I'm a coward. I'm just not stupid because I've seen people get hurt really bad, you know. But if I'm with family, it's instantaneous. Like, all right, we're gonna have to cut you down here, buddy.
Right. Oh no, there's no messing around. You know, hey, you mess with a mama bear or a cubs when mama bear's around, she's not going to growl at you or roar at you. She's going to attack and kill you. And you know, that was something, what you just said was something that I learned from a young age, and it brings to mind. There's this movie from the 80s with Kevin Costner and Sean Connery. It's called The Untouchables. And Robert De Niro is also in it. Robert De Niro plays Al Capone. And if you haven't seen that movie, bro, you gotta watch that movie. That's probably one of the coolest movies from the 80s right there. Oh, okay, good. Yeah. And there's this scene to where Kevin Costner, he plays God, what was the name? Elliot Ness. Elliot Ness was the guy that, you know, was credited with taking down Capone. And Sean Connery in this, he plays like this older seasoned cop who's like, he's like Elliot Ness's mentor, right? And in the scene, Costner's asking Connery, how do I deal with a guy like Capone? You know, and to paraphrase, he was just saying how you were saying, you come back hard. He sends one of yours, you know, he brings a knife, you bring a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the fucking morgue. Right? And that's how that type of thing works. And that's totally, when you're dealing, especially with someone with a criminal element or unreasonable, like how you're saying, that's how you gotta be more.
Yeah.
You gotta be more. Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't disagree. I don't know. Sundays are always a bit slow days. Anybody in the viewership have questions? Now's the time to drop them. We've been on for like an hour and 15 minutes. Anything else you want to drop? Anything you want to cover? I love just chopping up. I could talk to you for like 2 hours straight, man.
Yeah, I know, bro. I remember when we were doing the podcast online. I think we talked for quite a while before we even went live. Like we were just rapping, you know. So I remember that. And as far as plugging anything, I do have a situation, or not situational awareness. Excuse me. I have a mindset book coming out here within the next I think it's a week or two or whatever. It's called it's going to be called Thinking Tough. And for the person that asked about how is my mindset or what is this and that, I basically, in this book, I outline what took me from a criminal that did a decade in prison to a guy that made 6 figures his first year out and has just been progressively just killing life ever since. And I mean that metaphorically, not literally. I haven't killed anyone.
Good.
We're all good.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I look forward to reading that
myself,
myself, man. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I'll shoot you a copy for sure.
Oh, thanks, bro. Pick it up, man. You know,
yeah.
I'm always looking for, like I said, you know, a different mentality. Like I said about my homie Yahya, you know, I always need a different perspective and different mentality. You know, I've made a huge shift on my own just in the past 2 years. You know, with coming on Twitter and everything. So, you know, I'm always looking for like that little extra game.
Yeah, and that's cool that you have that, man. I mean, when you have, like I said earlier, when you have someone that you can really count, like there's, you know, I mentioned Ken, there's another guy, and we haven't even known each other like a particularly long time, you know, but another dude named Jim Staggs, you can find him on Twitter. Another dude that I hung out with all the time, solid dude, Jim Staggs.
Staggs. Okay. Writing it down.
He might even be watching. Jim, if you're watching, you know, bro.
Ah, there he is.
Okay. He's there. Yeah, he's a real one. He's a good dude. Any differences in Romania versus the U.S. as far as situational awareness? There's Jim. Yeah, Jim. One of the things I've noticed is I feel a little bit more relaxed here. I got to admit that while I'm still looking and that, you know, this and that. They don't have guns here. I haven't seen any, like I said earlier, I haven't seen like any transient or like, you know, street people. I'm sure they exist. I've been around and haven't seen one. And generally, people just seem like they deal with each other better. It doesn't seem like they're as suspicious of one another as, like, say, Los Angeles. You know, to where you don't even want to talk to a stranger, you know. So there's, you know, it's funny. I went to have coffee with a guy about an hour before we did this. His name's Mihal, and I was talking about how like I like, you know, I like talking with people and stuff. And he said, yeah, that's something I noticed about you is like you seem like a guy like you like to talk to people and you're smiling and you're doing this and that. And to me, it's like, well, yeah, if you live a life in a certain way, right? And you're not a psychopath, okay? It's like I just rather hang out and smile and laugh and have a good time. Like I did
Absolutely.
that. You know, I did the other stuff and I went through it. I've been hurt. I've hurt other people. Like
Yeah.
I'm not about that. You know, I just rather hang out, man, have a good time
I feel you,
and
bro.
just make the best of life as I can, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to come out to Romania and check you out sometime, man. I'm hoping this year I can do it, but we'll see. I'm working hard to try and just
Come
get
out
off
and
like payroll and just do my own thing.
yeah, come out and we'll hang out for sure. For sure. And I'm sure that that Andrew and Tristan would love to meet you too.
Yeah, them dudes are some cool dudes, man. I met them in Luxembourg. I actually, you know, my webmaster for my website, he's actually Romanian, and so I tried to stop there on my way back, on my way to Dubai, and on my way back from Dubai, and it just didn't work out, man. I was trying so hard to go out and see him. He's the coolest dude, man. And so
yeah,
hardworking, nice dudes.
yeah.
Like
I
you
mean,
said, they're just good people.
yeah, and they're just you know, I was talking to one of them. He's actually a friend of Andrew and Tristan's that I met. His name's Sebastian, and he and I were hanging out. This was during the summit. We had to go somewhere and pick some stuff up, so I went with him. You know, and he's telling me about Romania and how it is, and you know the crime, and or I should say the absence of crime. There's corruption. You can buy people off, but that's about that. That's like
about as far
the
as it
biggest
goes.
crime there is. You know,
Yeah,
right. And so my Los Angeles mind is trying to assimilate this, right? Like I'm going, what the fuck? So I go, well, why is it that you think like Romanians just get along and there's the absence of bad stuff, more or less. I mean, there's always a little bit, more or less, you know, it's good. I said, why do you think it's like that? And he looked at me almost like I was a retard. He was like, he goes, like he did one of these and he's like, why would Romanians want to hurt other Romanians? And like just the simplicity of that statement, like it just boggled me because he was being absolutely sincere, you know, and absolutely whatever. And but for someone that's especially from, you know, the Los Angeles area, it's like you almost can't comprehend it.
Yeah,
it's
you know,
yeah.
This goes into like what I was talking about earlier, r/case selection theory. If you don't have a lot of time, don't go researching it because it takes a lot of time to understand. But one thing about case selected people, which is the positive part, which is the positive group, is that they have what's called in-group preference. And so for them, their tribe, for lack of a better term, it comes before all else. And so that's a very case selected mentality. Why would we want to hurt our own? That's exceptionally case selected,
right.
You know? And so, I mean, that's
right. And
that's
could you imagine if Los Angeles, you know, Los Angelinos, like if they thought like that, like why would we hurt our own? Why would we, you know, Californians thought like that? Hey, we're Californians. Why would we hurt each other?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's missing, man.
What a better place the world would be.
I agree 100%, you know, and this is part of my problem, you know, because I'm actually getting kind of sick of Twitter. Twitter is actually starting to like, it's becoming cancerous, man. And I'm kind of sick of the whole, you can't save the West mentality. Okay, yes, we can't save the West, but you don't have to destroy it either. And one thing that is missing is this sense of like group and this sense of community. Individualism has gone so far that it's like dismantling the very society that was put together by groups and parties of people who were looking for the benefit of themselves as a people, you know. And I don't know what it comes from. Maybe it's because immigration, whatever else. I mean, the lack of homogeneity in terms of like culture and ethnicities. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's it. We have to just accept that there's some sort of problem somewhere that's underlying, you know, that's causing this. But it's really lacking, you know. And I mean, I'm dealing with like people. I have a very small circle of guys, but when we talk from a group perspective. What are we going to do with our children? Who are our children going to marry? We're thinking on times and moments when we're dead. We're not even thinking about when we're living.
Right.
So, it's like, and that's how entire societies, the societies we're in now, were built by people who are thinking about the future.
If you're a good parent, your plans are how you're going to build your kids.
Yeah.
What are your children gonna, and that's this is gonna, I don't mean this to sound bad. My grandparents that raised me, the ones that I grew up with, they were born in 1920 and 1922 respectively.
Okay.
And I'm glad they're dead. And the reason being is because, and I don't mean it for like, I'm happy.
Well, no, you said it was going to sound funny.
Good that they're gone. Yeah, I mean it because for their own sake, because I can't imagine them living in a world and like experiencing how the world is now versus what my grandfather literally went around the world during World War II fighting for this country and fighting to make a world a better place.
Yeah.
I never saw that guy mad. He was always happy. He was always, whatever. The only time that I saw that guy get mad ever was some dude had come by the house and he had some, I forget what it was, man, but somehow there was like a knot, like a swastika, right?
Yeah.
And this dude wasn't a skinhead. It was just like he had some book or he had some whatever, and he was like, "Oh yeah, man." And the only time I ever saw my grandpa get mad was when he said, "Put that fucking get that out of here."
Yeah.
No.
He literally
and it
fought
was like,
Nazis, literally, and now you running around here like it's some joke.
Right, and that's what it
yeah.
was like, right? And for their own sake, like I'm glad they I mean, I'm sure they see it, but I mean, I'm just glad they don't have to experience it.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Speaking of grandparents, I saw a tweet, and sometimes that's the type of content you want to see. This guy said he had an apple grove, like a whole grove of apple trees, and he says, "I can't stop thinking about the fact that my grandfather planted this apple grove specifically so that I would have something to farm and sell." And I was just like, wow. I was like, man, wow.
That's how it should be. And people, when you're talking about Twitter, like being a cancer, I totally get it because it seems like there's a lot more negativity on there than there is positivity.
I probably need to clean up my list.
Yeah. People talk about generational, what do they call that? Generational wealth. People talk about that like it's a bad thing. And the reality is that should be, well, it's because the people that their ancestors or their people didn't think about them. So that's why they're, pissed off. It's because they don't have it. So, but that's what the goal should be. You know what I mean? Like the goal should be you're setting up your progeny for the future. Like,
yeah, why wouldn't
you? I think that's yeah. And when you go to like European countries, like different, you'd know better than me because you're more traveled than I am. But you see like let's say a family that like it's like 5 generations have lived in the same house, or like they've had that because they set it up and now they have something and they're thinking about the future progeny as well. So that's how there's nothing wrong with that. That's how it should be. The wrong thing is not doing that.
A Qatari told me this. He's like, we could make European style houses with like, slanted roofs. He's like, but the reason why we make flat roofs is because our children live on top of us. He's like, so I'm living on top of my parents. He says, and my kids are gonna live on top of me, So they're thinking like that. It's like, you don't have to go anywhere. Yeah. They're all living in the same building.
That's awesome.
It really is.
One of the Armenian get downs, and my wife has said like, this is how we're going to do it with our daughter too. And I agree with it, is in America, we have this thing to where it's like, okay, I'm 18, I move out, or oh, you're 18, time to get out of the house or whatever. And my wife's like, she's staying under this roof until she's married.
Yeah, but my daughter's downstairs.
And
she's 19. So, she's not moving out. She's moving in with me because when my ex-wife's husband moves in, she can't stay down there. So she's living with me until she gets married. There's just no option. It's not a choice.
Right. Yeah. And it's it's the same with like, I mean, I know that men are supposed to get on it a little bit more. But it's even the same with men, to where here's the thing, and I've never understood this, okay? We know science tells us now more recently that the frontal lobe doesn't stop forming until like the mid-20s, okay?
Yeah.
So men are literally going through changes in their head, inside of their head, and they're figuratively doing it because now they've got the responsibility of, you're a man now, you're out of school, you do this. That is the most difficult time in a man's life. When you think about is that transition, right? Why are you going to boot them out on the street during the most difficult time in their life?
Yeah. This is goofy.
Yeah.
I talk about aimlessness in my book, and that was a big part of like my violence and my anger is being left aimless. I don't crap on my parents, and I say this in the book. My parents, they don't owe me an apology. I don't, I don't hold anything against them. People who have started off in positions and situations worse than me have done better than I have. But you can't leave kids aimless. You can't do it. You can't do it. If you have kids, that whole, like you said, 18 and get out. It's no, don't do it. No.
That's a big part of, I went to, life is a series of choices. Okay. I mean, that's what it is on small scale, on grand scale. Do I go to work today or do I not go to work today? Do I pay my bills? Do I not pay my bills? I mean, big and large, right? And I made my own choices. So I'm responsible for my own life and the direction that it took and it continues to take. That being said, I tell people that one of my biggest problems, my dad died before I was born. My mom has mental health issues to where I couldn't be with her, and then I'm with my grandparents who are old, and they don't understand didn't understand the current way. So it was real easy for me to pull the wool over their eyes, so to speak, and I didn't have that direction. I didn't have that strong hand guiding me. There was, it was like, and the strong hand that I did have guiding me was, there was this thing with my family to where they thought that the way you made a man was you just beat the shit out of him and he would become tough and be a man. So like all my uncles and, it was like I was constantly getting beat up as a kid by these grown men, and so I tell people that a lack of direction, it was the biggest factor of me taking the path that I did, but I'm in control of it, and you take responsibility for it. And
in terms of,
you got to go forward.
Yeah. Absolutely. I cover that. I think it's like maybe in the first chapter of my book, maybe the first or second chapter of the book. I talk about that. It's like, all my choices are mine. All my decisions are mine. All my mistakes or whatever else are mine. It's like, but at the same time, you cannot deny the role that your upbringing has played in it. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to, you're going to have to come to a realization on what's going wrong. And like you were saying at the beginning, when we first started, is control, and take control. You can't just let stuff happen to you. At some point, you're going to have to understand, whoa, okay, if I stay like this is going to go bad for me. And unfortunately, sometimes that has to start at an early age, but that has to be trained also. It's a really difficult situation, having raising still, children. I have 9 kids. I look back to some of my mistakes.
God bless you, man.
And it's like, I did a better job than my parents, but I can see where I missed the mark, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that went bad, but it didn't go bad enough to where it's like, I got to go to sleep at night, and I'm like, man, I'm rolling around not sleeping. I mean, both my sons turned out to be special forces, soldiers and whatnot, business minded. Oh, wow. They're doing their own businesses, so it went right, but I could have probably done better, So these are things we got to look at also.
I have a son that's 23, and as mentioned earlier, my daughter's 9, and my son, he was born when I was 18, and I love that kid to death. He's my firstborn. First tattoo I ever put on my body was his name. Okay. And but what happened was, me growing up without a father, because mine was deceased. The whole reason why I married his mother was because in my mind I wasn't going to put this kid through growing up without a dad. right?
Okay.
That was my 18-year-old rationalization is, oh, gotta marry her now because I want him to have a dad. And ironically, what ended up happening was me not having the direction and going to prison for 10 years. He grew up without a dad I went in when he was 4 and got out when he was 14, so it was like I missed this huge part of his life.
Yeah.
And
significant.
when people talk about, they say, what regrets do you have? I regret the people that I've hurt, not only the victim of my crime that, I went in to begin with, but what I did to my kid, because I pay so much attention to my daughter and I'm like so on it with her, and like, I know that I'm older and I got to remember and, and I take the time, more patient, and I feel like he got wronged. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things to where it's like, man, you got the short end. And that's something that, that it's just, that's what I got to live with,
But at the same time, it's awesome because there's so few people in the world that know better, but don't do better. And so it's like, it's like, you got to look at it like that too, you're doing better because you know better. I mean, now if you didn't know, or if you did know and you kept on doing the same thing that was like, subpar, for lack of a better term, that would be a shame, but that you learn, man, and you live and learn and you like increase and improve. That's an impressive thing, because I know people, they would let that feeling that like the short end of the stick feeling you're talking about, they let that stop them from actually doing better. I know people that know people that are like this, and it's like,
they'll let it sink them.
Yeah, you gotta let that. Sometimes that demon, he's like right there in your face. You just gotta face him and be like, "Look, man, this is what we gonna do, because I got to do what's right." He's sitting there beating you up, and
the silver lining of that, the silver lining of with my boy. And last time I was down in LA, I stayed at his house. He was like, "Dad, come over, sleep at my house." I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." So I was there and we were talking, and I don't know how, but the subject, he's never been in trouble. He's never, had anything bad happen. He works, he's got his own place. He, as far as from like, a dude handling his business, he's handling his business. He's doing what he should be. And I'm very proud of him for that. He doesn't ask me for shit. I mean, like he's never asked me. He doesn't ask me for money. He doesn't ask for whatever. I'll offer it to him. He's like, "Oh, I'm okay." To the point to where I'm like, I'm throwing money on the table and leaving because it's like, I just feel like I want to give him something and he's not taking it, but one of the things that was a silver lining from that is the subject of getting in trouble and prison came up for one time when we were talking this last time I was there, and he says, man, I've always, because of what happened to you and because of whatever, I've always been like so scared and paranoid of getting in trouble and being in prison and whatever, that I always made sure to do the right thing because I didn't want that to happen. And if my going to prison meant that he stayed out, to me, it's worth it.
It's worth a lot. Yeah.
If it meant that my kid's going to have a successful life and he's going to live and he's going to be I'll go do another 10 years.
Yeah. I think I'm a guy who made like almost every wrong choice you could make in life. I tell my guys also, I say, I do it so that you don't have to. And that's basically how I raise my kids. My kids I'm like, look, don't do that. They're like, oh yeah, but I'm like, no, look, let me tell you this story. And I got a story for almost every situation. So I
get that, man. And it's there's that saying that smart people learn from their mistakes, but wise people learn from the mistakes of others. It's like, don't hit your own head. You're gonna make yourself retarded if you keep hitting your head up against the wall.
Absolutely.
Like start learning from exterior stuff and quit learning by banging your head on stuff.
Yeah, I like walls, man. I don't know what the hell it is. Me and walls have a proclivity for one another.
Yeah, I feel that, man. I swear to God, I do, man.
I said to my wife, I was like, why do I always end up in these weird situations? I'm like, what does it say about me? I don't know what's going on here. It's just crazy stuff, man. It's like, I must be like making some crazy decisions to always end up like in crazy situations. I'm like, okay, what the hell? Yeah.
Well, you can think about it like this too. You live an average life, you get average results. Okay, so if you're finding yourself in stuff that's not average, it's because
Yeah.
you're an exceptional individual.
That-
And you can be exceptionally good,
yeah.
and you can be exceptionally bad.
I definitely got stories that people wouldn't believe. I always say, if I told you my life story, you'd think I was lying. I got stories that people just be like, if I told them, like, dude, there's no way that happened. And I'm like, yeah, it does. I was just talking on Twitter about how I got detained at Heathrow Airport under the 2000 Terrorism Act for like 2 hours, and how like my homie that follows me on Twitter, I just followed him back. I was like, I didn't know you were here. And he was like at the airport waiting for me while like MI5 was coming out talking to him about me that they were detaining. I got so many stories, dude, that are so crazy. I could just tell you some stuff. So at the same time, it's kind of cool,
Yeah, I mean, you live a seasoned life. I'm the same way, but the only thing is that I get and especially with the articles that I write, and as previously mentioned, bobbydino.com/blog, you can read all types of stories, is I don't want to glorify anything, if that makes sense.
I do.
You know what I mean? There's a fine line between like, this happened and I learned from it, versus like, hey, I'm cool because, this, it's like, and especially with my background, because talking about the just the poison of Twitter, right? I've got people, and I don't know why people hate, because it's like my whole message is like, hey, you can come back from anything and do the best, and I've got people that are like, fuck you, convict, and all this stuff. Like, I've got these weird, just haters, but that's something that I've seen too. Oh, you think you're cool because of this? You think you're a tough guy because of this? Oh, blah blah blah.
Weirdos,
and it's
man.
like, it's like, I'm here to try and help the next dude. If I tell you my life story, or tell you what I've been through, and you're drawing the conclusion of this and that, you're drawing the conclusion.
Yeah, you got some sort of issues.
It doesn't come out of my it doesn't come out of my mouth. I'm the tough guy. This is cool. That's what you're doing. That's your own problem.
Just for the record, for you and all my viewers, I have no connection to terrorists, and I was never charged on any sort of terrorist stuff. I just got stopped. just to be clear, okay?
Yeah, you're right. And you know what? You don't strike me. I mean, you don't strike me as such either. Yeah.
No. But somehow I always get snatched up by some agency in some country. It's almost the reason why I stopped traveling now. It's like, okay, these guys are stop me now or not,
Oh, God. Yeah. That's
well.
Crazy.
Hour and 42 minutes, Bobby, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you go. I guess nobody's got questions for you. We had like 1 or 2 questions, but otherwise, I guess that's it. Like I said, Sundays are actually slow. I might actually have to move to another day, but I'm on a show on Saturday, so like doing a show on Saturday. There's like, everybody has a show on Saturday. I don't think it's a good idea, because then I'm just gonna be competing with like 5 different channels for Saturdays. I don't know about Fridays.
Right.
Friday nights I might have to switch it up. I don't know. We'll have to see. Because Sundays are kind of slow, and like the post views are a lot higher than the actual real-time views, and so it's just kind of like,
so
I know they're not.
So
church.
Mondays, and like if you do television, like Nelson, yeah, for real, they're not in church. So like Nelson type stuff, like TV type ratings and stuff. Like Mondays and Fridays are like slow days, but like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, that's when all the big programs are on. These like midweek things. So that's something to consider too. Instead of
the time zone also.
Their work week, they get off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's that. Because it's still like morning in like America or whatever, and in California, I think it's.
Yeah, and I got work in the morning, so I can't be up all night. I got to get up at like 4 in the morning, man, to go to my job. I'm off early, but I have to start early also. So I have to look at it, man.
Yeah.
Because that's a shame people didn't get in here, man, and see this.
Is this up though? Like once we're done, like it'll stay.
It stays up.
Oh, look, there's a question. When will you interview Tristan? Sorry, I didn't cut it for you, bro.
I know, right? It's like, wow. It's like, ouch, man.
Yeah. No, it's all good.
Man, like that, dude. Hey, Street Jesus watches me regularly. I don't know, Tristan. He was supposed to be on. Actually, this was actually Tristan's slot right here. Tristan couldn't make it. So So I don't know. He's busy, man. He's a millionaire, man. Those guys got different lifestyles and they got things going on. So it's like, when he can make it, he can make it. Ask Tristan. Get on Twitter and like, yo, what's up? What's good, man? But this month is not gonna happen because this month's booked out. I got a guy fighting London crime. He's in the trenches of London. He's doing anti-knife crime stuff, and then I got Ed Lattimore at the end of the month. So Street Jesus, I don't know. Yeah.
And those boys, they're I mean, I'm here and we're not hanging out all the time. I think we've hung out twice since I've been here. So it's like they're like you said, they're doing their own thing, and they are hard to nail down.
Those dudes stay busy, man. I'm completely impressed by them and the level of just psychopath forward energy these guys can do. I don't know how they do it, man. I was just like, dude,
it's nuts.
Just don't stop. When do you turn it off?
No, I tell Andrew this. I've said it to him quite a few times. I'm as a friend, I'm extremely proud of that dude because, like you said, just the work ethic and how he does things and whatever. It's inspiring.
Yeah,
it is. I'm not afraid to admit that. I give him his props. Yeah.
I've done more after meeting these guys than I have in the past 4 or 5 years for myself. I usually go to a job and I work hard for other people. I work hard for myself. Now I've got I've got a few things actually going on now. I wrote my book. I got my wife runs my website and whatever else. I'm like, yeah, it's not bad. Watching these guys, man.
No,
I don't know how they do it. It's impressive. Right. So to answer your question, Street Jesus, I don't know. I stay in contact with them. I'll find out. We'll see.
Yeah. And this is going to be up on your YouTube channel.
It'll be up here. It's downloadable and everything. If you don't know how to download it, I can download it and send it to you if you want to put it on your channel. If you want to put it on your channel.
Okay, that'd be dope. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, for sure. And wouldn't you say freedom is achieved by restriction? I know we're trying to get off here. Yeah, we discussed that earlier. Yeah. That was part of the earlier topic, but yeah, true. You got to have some kind of order, otherwise it's not freedom, it's chaos.
Exactly. There you go. There's your answer. You're gonna lose something. Yeah, there has to be order, or it's gonna be chaos. So absolutely. Right. All right, gentlemen. I'm gonna let Bobby go. He's got life. I got life. I gotta get out of here. Sun's gone down. I gotta pray and everything, guys. So you can catch Bobby.
Thanks for having me on that.
Hold on. Let me put this on here. Let's plug this real quick. What is it?
BobbyDino.com. Easy.
Dino.com. You can find him here. Anything you want to, his material.
That is
gosh.
Yeah. There is an end. No, but hey, and you know what? Even if they forget the website, you just Google Bobby Dino, I pop up.
Yeah.
So you
find him on Twitter. Go check him out, sir. I appreciate having you on. Man, it's always
thanks for having me,
dude. And we're out.
Likewise.